What's up, car audio champions? Yes, I had to freaking do it. This amp has been around forever, and I was just curious if they changed anything or if it's still a pile of you know what. So I wanted to do it. So this is the Pyramid Arctic Series PB717X 1000-watt 2-channel. So we're going to see what's really up with this. I'm curious. This amp has been around for like 30 years. It's just like a normal size amp. It's about like 10 by 10 or so. It looks actually pretty nice, which is funny. So the specs are kind of wonky, but basically they say 50 times 2 at 4 ohm and 75 times 2 at 2 ohm. And it says 500 bridged, but we know that's not going to happen. But pretty nice looking amp, actually. I'll put a link in the description. This was like $60 or $59. So you have your two RCA ends. They also give you a pigtail to use high levels. And you just have your crossovers. Pretty basic. And on this end, they're all spade terminal type inputs. And we got a 30 amp fuse right there. Power protect light. And huge huge spade inputs. Anyway, looks pretty clean. We'll see if they changed anything, if this thing blows up or if it actually does decent power. You got to keep in mind, this is like $60, so it's not going to be crazy, but I was just curious. Look, you could take this $60 amp and put it in like a custom setup like this that costs thousands of dollars and have this Pyramid amp as the center of your attention. And they even show you how to hook it up. Look, you can use 22 gauge power wire and just jump the remote. Don't do this, guys. I don't know why they have this picture up there. It's pretty ridiculous. All right, so as always, we're going to start with the certified tests. What this reads is max power up to 1% THD. So this is basically the max clean power. So we're doing 4 ohms times 2. So the specs say 50 watts. I have no idea what to expect. I'm honestly expecting like 10 watts or something with the reputation of these things. Oh, holy cow. It did overrated. 65 watts times 2 at 4 ohm. And I think this is a class AB because the efficiency is not very good, but it's not pulling much current, so it really doesn't matter. But oh my God, first time in history, I think a Pyramid put out over what it said. Overrated power. Pretty crazy. All right, well, let's continue. Now we're going to do the uncertified test. And this basically reads its max power up to clipping. So this is essentially full max power, not regarding any distortion. Some amps do a little more. Some amps do the same. And I'll put a link to this amp in the description. And I always try to put links to the cheapest price that I find. A little bit more, about the same. So 67 watts at 4 ohm 2-channel. Again, it's over what it says. And if you think about it, it's rated at 50. So 67 is quite a bit overrated. So let's do dynamic burst. So dynamic burst is real power, but it's just what the amp can do for short, instantaneous hits like on rock and roll, kick drum music. So right about the same. So pretty straight across the board. We're looking at about 65, 68 watts times 2 at 4 ohm. So let's go ahead now and do the 2 ohm tests. I think the specs say 75 times 2. And I'll pull the cover off and we'll see what's inside, but I'm sure this is like a class AB because the efficiency is not the greatest. So we're looking for 50 times 2. Oh my gosh, incredible. 88 times 2. Specs say 75. You know, it's crazy that, and the only reason I'm shocked is because Pyramid is like Boss. Usually they don't do anywhere near rated power. So it's kind of nice to know what you're getting. So you're actually getting more than what they say, which is a good thing. And I'm going to do that test one more time just to see If anything changes, I'm just curious. If we get the same result doing the same test twice. No, it's the same. Same, so very good. All right, so next we'll do the uncertified max power. And some people get concerned with efficiency, but on an amp like this, you can see it's not drawing hardly any current. So unless you're getting into higher power amps, like efficiency on an amp like this, in my opinion, is nothing to even worry about. It's just not drawing enough power to care about. So uncertified max power up to clipping. See if it does any more. A little bit more, 94. So, I mean, it says 75 times 2, and we're getting 95 times 2 uncertified, so pretty good. All right, let's hit it with dynamic and see what happens. So I don't know, like, is this a crazy deal for $60? No. But I was just curious, you know what I mean? Obviously, there's better deals out there. But it's nice that it's doing what it says. And we'll try it bridged also into one channel later. Because it said 500 watts bridged, and we know that's not going to happen. Man, almost 100 watts. 98 watts times 2 at 2 ohm. And again, this thing hasn't done anything on the dyno, hasn't gone under protect. I was actually thinking, honestly, that this thing might pop, and it's not. So, all right, bridged one channel. So it's 2 channels bridged, and they should have little diagrams on the speaker terminals where you use a positive and negative from each channel bridged into one. And I have no idea what this is going to do because the spec sheet I know is BS. 133 watts times 1 at 4 ohm. But I'm starting off a little weak on this because I honestly don't have too much faith in this amp. So I'm getting it on tape if anything happens, but I'm starting out a little bit under power. And I'm going to do a couple tests and ramp up just in case this thing pops. So I'm slowly turning it up here on certified. So 144 times 1 at 4 ohm. And if you guys want, check out my website, HiFiVector.com. I have amplifier cooling fans, cooling fan control units, bass knobs, speaker connectors, all kinds of stuff I make, and it supports the channel. So if you guys want to check that out. All right, let's try it again. This is the last one. So this is basically set up properly to max power. Hasn't popped yet, so let's see what happens on this one. 176. So that's what you're going to get bridged out of this little $60 amplifier. You guys will have to let me know. Is it worth it? There's other stuff out there, obviously, that makes more power, but this is also a Class AB. Some guys like the way Class ABs sound better. So, I don't know. You guys will have to let me know. Now let's go uncertified up to clipping. I tend to look at everything different. If it's a $60 amp, I'm not going to beat it up too hard. Some guys just might like the way it looks, and they might like Pyramid, so for them it may be worth it. A little bit more uncertified, 186 watts. 1 channel, 4 ohm. Let's do the dynamic, and then I'm going to put a chart up here in a minute with all the ratings, and then we're going to check out the efficiency. So that way you guys can see all the data. So now let's do dynamic burst. This amp is kind of doing pretty similar power across the board. Can we hit that 200? Almost. So 194, one channel dynamic, not too bad. Let me know what you guys think. All right, let's go get that results sheet up, and I'll calculate all the efficiency, and we'll see how bad the efficiency is. All right, as I suspected, the efficiency is not that great, but again, it's not drawing much power, so I wouldn't worry about it. But it did overrated power at 4 ohm and 2 ohm, bridged the 500 watts. I think that was just a, fake number. So I didn't expect it to do that, but we got 194 bridged at 4 ohm, and it's only stable at 4 ohm bridged. All right, fellas, so let's check out what's under the hood on this sucker. Right off the bat, it does look a lot better than the old Pyramids. The quality definitely looks like they stepped it up. You can see, too, they have some adhesive on the caps and the power supply. Everything looks a lot cleaner than the old ones. So there's definitely, I think, been a quality improvement of this amp from the years. And I know the one that was out 30 years ago didn't do the power this one did. I know for sure. But these are Uscon caps. The large ones are 2200 microfarad, 105 degree 50 volt. And the small ones are 1000 microfarad, 105 degree 35 volt. Uscon's actually a decent, cheap capacitor brand. So they're not using total bottom of the barrel parts, it looks like, which is a good thing. So let me know what you guys think. Not too bad for 60 bucks. Also, if you guys want to check out my website, HiFiVector.com, I make a bunch of custom car audio stuff in multiple colors, amplifier cooling fans, bass knobs, speaker terminal connectors. Also just came out with this gray and black Max 1 amplifier cooling fan. All right, guys. Well, you'll have to let me know what you think. I'll put a link in the description if you want to check this amp out. You know what? I mean, for 60 bucks, it didn't pop on the dyno. You get a 5-year warranty. It did more than what it said besides that 500 watt times 1. The warranty's legit. The amplifier did good. It didn't pop on the dyno. Didn't do anything weird. No noise. Kind of like the old ones. So they definitely, I think, stepped up to quality. Didn't do a lot of power, but hey, it did more than what it said, so that's a good thing. Looks pretty nice. You'll have to let me know what you think. Again, it is a Class AB. Some guys like the way those sound better. So I guess it has its place depending on what you're doing. So not too bad. And I was actually shocked this thing did overrated power. I think that is crazy for Pyramid because they don't have the greatest reputation on that. Well, all right, guys, if you appreciate the content, man, like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace. Oh, yeah. Hut 1, Hut 2, Hut 3, Hut. HiFi Vector, live and uncut.
Dude, that was stupid. You're such a dork.
Whatever.